BYD thought they had won. And honestly, looking at the evidence in front of them, it was a reasonable conclusion to reach. They had outsold Tesla globally. They had become the best-selling car brand in China. They had built a battery that became the structural floor of the car itself. They had developed a hybrid system running at 46% thermal efficiency, a number so far ahead of Toyota's best effort that the Japanese engineers who had dominated the hybrid conversation for 30 years had no immediate answer for it. BYD's fifth-generation hybrid could travel a combined range of over 2,100 kilometers on a single tank and a single charge. That is roughly the driving distance from Miami to Boston without stopping for fuel or electricity. By every measure that mattered, BYD had not just joined the hybrid race, they had lapped the field. And then Geely walked into the Beijing Auto Show in April 2026 and put a number on a screen that made every engineer in the room go very quiet. 48.4%. Not 46%, not 47%, 48.4% thermal efficiency. In a mass-produced engine, in a car that regular people can buy, Guinness World Records flew in, ran the independent tests, and made it official. The most thermally efficient production engine in human history. Certified, on the record, permanent. BYD had spent years building toward a number that nobody else could touch. Geely just touched it, then went past it. And the story of how they did it and what it means for BYD, for the global auto industry, and for the car you are going to buy in the next 5 years is one of the most important stories in automotive engineering that almost nobody outside of China is talking about yet. Before we go further, hit the like button right now, because what comes next is the part that reframes everything you thought you knew about where the car industry is actually heading. To understand why Geely's achievement is so significant, you need to understand the problem both BYD and Geely were trying to solve, and why solving it matters more than most people realize. Electric vehicles were supposed to be the clean, simple answer to everything, and in many ways they represent genuinely exciting technology. But living with one day-to-day has turned out to be more complicated than the advertisements suggest. Fast charging at the best stations available today still means sitting and waiting for 20 to 40 minutes just to get back to 80% battery. Cold weather cuts advertised range by 30 to 40%. A car that promised 300 miles of range on a mild autumn day becomes a 180-mile car on a cold January morning in Minnesota. Battery replacements, when they eventually become necessary, can cost $10,000 to $20,000. And the electrical grid in most countries was simply not built to handle tens of millions of electric vehicles all charging simultaneously. None of this means electric vehicles are wrong or that they do not have a real future. They absolutely do. But for hundreds of millions of people around the world right now, an electric car is not a seamless upgrade. It is a trade-off that requires real lifestyle adjustments. BYD understood this earlier than most, which is exactly why they invested so heavily in their hybrid lineup alongside their fully electric vehicles. Their fifth-generation hybrid system was a genuine engineering achievement, 46.06% thermal efficiency, a combined range that made range anxiety essentially irrelevant. A system so far ahead of anything Toyota or Honda had produced that BYD spokesperson said out loud what the numbers already showed. Japanese hybrid dominance was over. That was a bold statement. The data supported it. But here's what BYD did not account for. They were not the only Chinese company asking the same question. Geely is not a name most people outside of the automotive industry know well. That is about to change. Li Shufu founded Geely in 1986 with approximately $3,000 borrowed from his family and a factory making refrigerator parts. In 1997, he announced he was going to build cars. The industry laughed. He had no engineering pedigree, no factory configured for automotive production, no major investors, no industry connections. When reporters pushed him on how difficult building a car actually was, he reportedly said, "A car is just 4 wheels and 2 couches." The laughter did not last long. In 2001, Geely became the first private Chinese company ever licensed to manufacture automobiles in China. In 2010, Li Shufu bought Volvo from Ford for $1.8 billion in cash. The automotive world was stunned. In 2018, he purchased nearly 10% of Daimler, the company that owns Mercedes-Benz, making him the single largest individual shareholder of one of the most iconic luxury brands on earth. The farmer's son, who got laughed at for thinking he could build cars, became the biggest shareholder in Mercedes-Benz. Today, Geely Group owns Volvo, Polestar, Lotus, and several other brands across multiple continents. And the engineering ambition that drove all of it is exactly what produced the engine that just rewrote the record books. The engine is called the BHE-15. It is a 1.5-liter four-cylinder. That is a small engine by any measure, the kind of displacement you would normally find in a basic economy car, nothing that sounds extraordinary on paper. What this engine does with fuel is unlike anything ever measured in a vehicle available to the public. To understand the achievement, you need to understand one concept: thermal efficiency. Every engine wastes energy. When fuel burns inside an engine, not all of that energy actually moves the car forward. A significant portion escapes as heat through the exhaust. More is lost to friction. The efficiency rating tells you how much of the fuel's total energy actually becomes useful motion. The average car engine on the road today converts somewhere around 30 to 35% of fuel energy into actual movement. Everything else is wasted as heat into the air. Toyota's hybrid engine, considered the best in the world for decades, sits at around 41%. That number is why the Prius became a symbol of fuel efficiency. 41% was the mountaintop. Nobody had gotten higher in a car you could actually purchase. BYD got to 46.06%. The industry took notice. Geely got to 48.4%. Guinness made it official. Here is the comparison that puts it into perspective in a way that is almost hard to process. Formula One engines, the most technically advanced, most expensively engineered, most obsessively refined internal combustion machines human beings have ever built, run at around 50% thermal efficiency. Teams spend hundreds of millions of dollars pushing those numbers year over year. Geely's production engine, the one that goes into a car regular people can buy, is now within 2 percentage points of a Formula One engine. That is not just impressive, that is a different category of achievement entirely. This is the moment that changes the BYD story, because BYD's competitive position in the hybrid market was built on a specific advantage. They were ahead of everyone, significantly ahead of the Japanese manufacturers who had owned this space for 30 years, and they were ahead of every other Chinese competitor. 46.06% felt like a number nobody was catching anytime soon. Geely caught it, then went past it. Geely paired the BHE-15 engine with a 308 horsepower electric motor and connected the whole system to an artificial intelligence-powered energy management platform that continuously monitors driving conditions and adjusts how the engine and motor share the workload in real time. The result is a hybrid system where every drop of fuel is being used with a level of precision that simply was not possible before. The real-world result of all of that engineering is a car that achieves 106 miles per gallon. Guinness verified that number independently. 2 certified world records from one car program. To put 106 miles per gallon into terms that actually land, consider this. A typical car with a 15-gallon tank and an average of 30 miles per gallon gives you about 450 miles before you need to stop. That same 15-gallon tank at 106 miles per gallon gives you roughly 1,590 miles of range. Los Angeles to Denver and most of the way back on a single tank of gas. Now here is where this story becomes genuinely important for BYD specifically. BYD is not standing still. They never have been. The company that reverse-engineered Japanese battery technology in a rented room in 1995 and turned it into the world's largest automotive operation by 2024 does not accept a competitive challenge passively. Their response to Geely's record will come. It is not a question of whether, but of when and how far they can push the number. But the dynamic has shifted in a way that matters. For years, BYD occupied the position of the company that nobody could catch, the company setting the benchmarks everyone else was chasing. The company whose efficiency numbers made Toyota and Honda look like they were operating in a previous era. Geely just put BYD in the position of being the one doing the chasing. And the implications extend beyond the two companies, because Geely does not just sell cars in China. Geely owns Volvo, they own Polestar, they own Lotus. Through a powertrain partnership called Horse Powertrain, they license their engine technology to other automakers around the world. The BHE-15 engine and the hybrid system wrapped around it are not going to stay inside Chinese borders. This technology is already being integrated into Volvo's product roadmap. It will reach European vehicles within the next few years. It will eventually appear in American dealerships through brands that American consumers already know and trust. The engineering decisions made in Hangzhou are going to determine what is under the hood of cars sold in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York before the end of this decade. For BYD, the message is clear. The race they thought they had won just got a new frontrunner. For the rest of the global auto industry, the message is equally clear. The assumption that hybrids were a temporary bridge technology on the way to a fully electric future needs serious revision. The bridge just got considerably longer and considerably more capable than anyone assumed. The farmer's son who borrowed $3,000 and got laughed at for thinking he could build cars just produced the most fuel-efficient production engine in human history. And the company that thought it had lapped the field just discovered the race is not over. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Does Geely's record change how you see BYD's dominance, or do you think BYD has something in development that changes this picture entirely? Hit the like button if this gave you something to think about, and subscribe so you are there when the next chapter of this story breaks. See you in the next one.